Good evening. New England tonight is struggling with the worst snowfall in its history. A raging blizzard that came in on winds of up to 100 miles an hour, bringing death and destruction to the whole region. The storm, which dumped snow on the Atlantic coast from Washington to New York yesterday, took on a new fury as it headed northeast toward Providence and Boston. Off the coast of Massachusetts, a Greek oil tanker has run aground, and there is a danger of a potential major oil spill. In Boston itself, hit by a huge power blackout because of hurricane-force winds, looters have been arrested in the Roxbury and Dorchester areas, and all off-duty policemen have been ordered to report with full riot gear. Brian Ross has been covering the story in Boston.
The blizzard hit Boston last night with heavy snows and winds almost 100 miles an hour. Overnight, the city lost almost all of its electric power, and many people still don't have electricity in their homes. The snow and winds haven't stopped yet. A snowfall of 26 inches is expected. Just about everything here is closed. Thousands of people are stranded. The National Guard has been called out, and the Army has been alerted. Along the coast, both blizzard and flood. The high winds are pushing high tides onto land. 2 people have already drowned. This film was made in Revere, a Boston suburb on the coast. This is how a team of Revere firemen and a truck driver rescued some victims of the blizzard and the flood.
Come on, get a move on up there. Yeah, I know. I know. Grab one of these kids. Get a truck in here, so. Who here? I know you're gonna go to him. Come here. Let's go. Right there. Someone else has you.
During the rescue, one fireman began to suffer the first symptoms of frostbite in his legs. He and the other rescuers had been waiting in the cold, rising water for almost a half hour.
Hang on, come on here.
Yeah, kids are all off. Hold on to the thing there, dear.
At one point, the firemen themselves were trapped, along with NBC News camera crew members Dean Gaskell and Joe McCafferty. But the truck came one more time, and everyone got out. In this storm, there are a lot of victims and a lot of heroes. Brian Ross, NBC News, Boston.
And Rhode Island had the worst storm in its history. 26 inches of snow, and along the coast, winds up to 100 miles an hour. It is so bad, President Carter ordered the U.S. Army to go in and do whatever it could to help. A report from Providence and John Sweeney.
The mannequins in a downtown Providence department store window seem to be the most comfortable inhabitants of this city following the worst snowstorm in its history. Thousands of abandoned automobiles litter the main highways leading to this capital city, making plowing efforts that much more difficult. State civil defense officials reported at least 8 storm-related deaths, including 3 people who died of asphyxiation in their stranded autos. By mid-morning, officials said that all stranded motorists had been rescued, many by volunteers in snowmobiles and 4-wheel drive vehicles. Rhode Island Governor J. Joseph Garrahy asked for and got a federal disaster declaration today, and local officials are awaiting the arrival of federal troops to help in the cleanup operation. Until then, the best way to travel around Rhode Island is by snowmobile. John Sweeney for NBC News, Providence.
In the latest satellite weather picture, the huge swirling storm can now be seen out over the Atlantic after it moved across the northeastern states, leaving them smothered in snow, streets and roads impassable, many dead, electric lines down, some cities ordering all cars from the suburbs to stay out. The official measurement of the snowfall in 4 cities, not counting the drifts, Philadelphia 14 inches, Trenton, New Jersey 16, Hartford, Connecticut 20, New York City 18. Here's Robert Hager.
New York City seemed to be coping well with what's being called the third worst snowstorm of the century for this city. The final accumulation here amounted to about 1.5 feet. All over New York, automobiles were buried in snow piles pushed up by the plows, but most main streets in the city were clear. Airports in the area used big snow blowers to try to clear their runways, but the wind blew the snow back, and no major airports in the New York area have been able to reopen yet. In New Jersey, there's been a lot of damage along the coast. This is what the wind and high water did to the boardwalk in Belmar, New Jersey. A bathhouse was destroyed, battered by waves at Sandy Hook State Park. Further south, a fishing boat washed up onto the beach. In Connecticut, Governor Grasso ordered every road in the state closed to all but emergency traffic until noon today. That was so the snowplows could get through. It worked, and by midday, most major roads in Connecticut were clear. But high winds blew the snow back onto exit ramps, making access to the highways difficult in many places. There were still hundreds of abandoned cars scattered along the highways. Dozens of trucks were laid up at this truck stop in Darien, Connecticut. While some drivers worked to get their trucks out, others watched from the truck stop where they'd spent the night. Lawrence Millette said this was the first time in 30 years that he'd been forced to lay over by a snowstorm. Bill Lillyquist had been waiting almost 24 hours for a tow truck to arrive to fix a broken axle on his truck. But even the tow trucks were having trouble today. Coastal areas of Connecticut worried about beach erosion. Water was 1 foot deep in Harry Thompson's beachfront driveway this noon. By afternoon, the snow had tapered off here. The big storm was over in this area. The job of digging out was already well underway. Robert Hager, NBC News, along the Connecticut coast.